Good afternoon and welcome to the show Horsepower. I'm your host Jeff Goulet, the show where four legs always beats two. Good afternoon, and this afternoon's guest is Carol Holden. We're honored to have Carol with us. As you are from West Virginia, you know that this Saturday is the 32nd running of the West Virginia Breeders' Classics. Carol, you are the co-founder of the West Virginia Breeders' Classics along with Sam Huff, NFL great. Also, I just can't say enough about what you've done for this state. I know myself, being a horse person, I get goosebumps this time of year, and it's not because of the weather outside, but it's because of the West Virginia Breeders' Classics. And I just want to thank you so much for showing up today. And I really just want to get a little bit of your insight into the Classics. 32 years ago, the inception of the Classics, I can't even imagine being there. I'd love to hear some of your stories about how it came to fruition and some stories that you have to relate to us about Sam.
Okay, certainly Sam Huff is the major element in this entire story. We would not be here talking about the West Virginia Breeders' Classics if it weren't for him. He and I had gone to the Maryland Million, and of course, as you probably know, the Maryland Million is a takeoff on the Breeders' Cup, the national event. And after seeing the Maryland Million, he said, well, why can't we do this in West Virginia? And I was, of course, with the West Virginia Thoroughbred Development Fund at the time, and I said, we don't have enough horses. But that didn't matter to him. I said, actually, we don't have enough because the Maryland Million and the Breeders' Cup are based on the sire program, and we just didn't have that many horses at the time. So, of course, Sam does not take no for an answer. And I talked with Millard Harrell, who I worked with the Development Fund, and Dickie Moore, who was racing secretary at the time. And one of the things we decided to do was make it bred and sired, so that gave us a few more horses, but very few. We only had 157 horses eligible in 1987. Wow. And so we only had 5 races, and then over the years got built up to, as you know, the 9 races.
Now, you did have sponsors the first year, or?
Sam was, besides being an NFL Hall of Famer, he was also with Marriott Corporation. So he twisted a few arms there, talked to a few people, and yes, we had Budweiser, Lewis Rich, and of course the West Virginia Lottery and Tourism both came in.
You know, the other day I was looking up some information about Sam, and I think a lot of people don't realize how significant his career was in the National Football League. I believe he was the man of the year on Time Magazine or something along those lines. I know he's in the West Virginia Hall of Fame for collegiate athletes, and he just really is Mr. West Virginia. I can't even imagine. I think it's kind of a segue into what we want to talk about, the breeding side of the business, but I know I was sitting talking with John Casey the other day, and John's a man of few words. He doesn't like to talk a whole lot about things. And I asked John, I said, I think people don't recognize the significance of what Sam did and what the Breeders' Classics do for your industry. And he said, I think also what people don't understand is that you don't just enter into the breeding side of the business. He said, it takes a farm. It takes employees. It takes fencing. It takes help. He said, it takes so much time, effort,
don't forget
money,
patience.
And patience and luck. I mean,
yeah.
When you have a young horse, you have a pairing of a sire and a dam, you're waiting 2 years for that horse to make it to the first race in its career. So, I mean, it's a fortuitous business, and I just, John said, I think sometimes people forget how much time and effort the breeders actually put into this industry. He said, and I just can't thank Sam and Carol enough. He said, it's put us on the national map. I mean, it's a prominent event.
Yeah, breeders don't get enough credit nationally. They've made something of an effort to do that, but it's the jockey and the current owner and the trainer who get their name in the paper.
It's true. It's like, use the analogy for a football game. It's the quarterback that gets all the credit, but there's a lot of other players out there that are trying hard.
The linebackers.
Right, linebackers, number 70. But I mean, I know myself, I came from a background in horse racing, and it's just like when you win, you're great. When you run second and third, nobody remembers who you are. And the
And
breeding
it's
industry,
24/7.
yeah, and the breeding industry in this state, I mean, it has surprised and it has surpassed all expectations as far as I'm concerned, because I follow this business closely. And for me to see sires that we have now, Mr. Casey Stanton Jubat, son of Tappet, and John McKee, I want to say there's 14 horses that he has that are bred by his sire Fiberson that are running that night. And it's just incredible. And the small people in this state don't get enough recognition. The little people that are breeding 3 and 4 horses a year. I mean, it really is a business that I don't think it lends itself to the publicity side of things. And I don't think horse people a lot of times promote themselves as other fields do. It saddens me sometimes, because for me, it's a great game. I love it. I love everything about it. I especially love Breeders' Classics Night because I love the pageantry of it. I love the blue and gold, and it's the things that surround it, the things that you guys have done for it, which is the golf tournament. You might want to expound a little bit on the golf tournament and the gala, and also, are we still doing the Breakfast of Champions? Or
No, but it might be making a comeback.
that would be. I mean, that is an event that in years past it was so anticipated and looked forward to.
I didn't realize how much fun it was, because most of the early years I was running around dealing with trophies and banners and a lot of other things.
Right.
And then the first year when I finally win, it was great. Of course, Sonny Jurgensen was always one of the key players in it, but Bobby Mitchell and Sonny Randall and.
Well, I'll date myself, but my father he bled burgundy and gold, and he loved the Redskins, and we actually had season tickets up until his death. And I can remember, I got to see Sam play. I got to see Bobby Mitchell play. I got to see Billy Kilmer play, Mark Mosley, all of those guys that you brought into basically our living room at the track. And those things were just fabulous. I mean, I hope it does make a comeback, because I love to see the little kids' faces, the autographs, and even on the other side of the ledger, when we brought Dave Johnson here, Chris Lincoln. If you could just mention Chris Lincoln and Dave Johnson a little bit, because I know they were involved. You brought them in, as a special announcer, and it's just great guys.
Well, a fun story that I can tell you that Chris Lincoln relayed to us. The first year, the second year actually, then Governor Moore was here. He was also here for the ribbon cutting for the first year, but they were out there and they were about ready to interview Governor Moore, and someone they had the big control trailer, and someone said, "Shoot the governor," and his security guards heard it and started pulling the guns, and so we were totally unaware of that.
Similar incident with the same thing. I remember going to a basketball game in Martinsburg that the governor was going to attend, and a friend of mine was a photographer, and he went in the wrong door, and the state police officer stopped him, and they said, "What are you here for?" And he said, "I'm here to shoot the governor." And they automatically threw him on the ground. It's classics. But I just, I hope that the Breakfast of Champions was a unique event. It was something that I just think, if the opportunity presents itself, I would love to see that brought back.
Yeah,
the reincarnation of that event would be great.
Yeah, the problem we have, though, Sam's contemporaries
Are getting
up there, and not a lot of them not in the best of health and that sort of thing. So that makes it a little bit of a problem. But we're probably going to at least try to bring that back.
I think it would be nice.
Yeah.
Talking about age, you make that segue. I look around sometimes, and the West Virginia breeders right now, John McKee, Mr. Casey. I'm thinking Randy Funkhauser. These are all gentlemen that are stalwarts in the business that
breed the most.
That are all getting older.
Yeah.
And they all have family. Thank God. That hopefully will continue on the legacy that they've laid down for us. And because I'm sometimes I concern about what direction are we going after these guys, because as I said, those faces should be on the Mount Rushmore of West Virginia horse racing. I mean, Casey, McKee, Hilton, all those people.
Yeah.
I mean, they've given so much to this business, but none any more than Sam. I mean, you know, without a vision, nothing gets taken place. I mean, Sam was, between you and Sam, you guys really have laid the foundation for what I think is probably, I get a lot of people will say, wait a minute now, you know, we do have $1 million race here, you know, and all like that. But I mean, for me, the Fall Classic here is still the West Virginia Breeders' Classic.
Well, you're probably aware, though, our amount of purse money has gone down, although we have given, after this year's races, we will have been responsible for about $27 million in purse money, I think it is.
And the quality of the horses that we have here now, I mean, I talked to a friend of mine the other day, and he said, let's take into consideration the fact we had a horse from West Virginia win a race at Saratoga last year, West Virginia bred. He said, you know, it's not an everyday occurrence, but it's not that it isn't going to happen, or the potential for it to exist isn't there. And I love this state. It's not my home state, but I've been here for 15 years. And for me, you know, West Virginia, I mean, I have talked to my wife about it. You know, we've said, you know, do you want to go someplace else? You know, have we exhausted everything here? And I don't say that because, you know, I like this state. I like this area. I like the things that Charlestown, West Virginia has to offer. Bethlehem, Jefferson County, tourism is going to grow. The facility over here now, we have sports betting that just came to fruition. I'm looking for that somewhere along the line, maybe to benefit horse racing, because if it does, I think you'll see that the monies that we have for the classics hopefully will be bolstered again. Mm-hmm. And that's a big thing. And as long as we have people and advocates like you fighting for horse racing, I don't have a lot of fear, because the people that are dedicated to horse racing, they love it, mm-hmm. you know, and they're not going to let anything take that away from them.
You know, you mentioned winning at Saratoga. I didn't realize until the other day, Dr. Alera brought in pictures of Cavada, who of course our feature filly race is named for. She won at Saratoga and also at Monmouth. And one of her riders was a Hall of Fame rider, Mike Smith.
Wow.
And also Jose Santos, who was in the Hall of Fame. I had no idea. Of course, she won when the race was at Mountaineer, the one year that it was not here.
And the first year of the Classics was 1987. Mm-hmm. And that would have been Buck Woodson, who's still alive. Mm-hmm. And I think he's in his 90s now. And Mr. Woodson was the trainer and owner of Onion Juice.
And we have an onion juice race.
And there is an onion juice race.
West Virginia Thoroughbred Breeders Association sponsor.
And I like the onion juice this year from a handicapping perspective, which is my bailiwick. I like some of the races. I think the Cavada will probably be the jewel this year as far as talent. I'm looking at Javier Contreras' horse and Tim Graham's horse, and and Anna's Bandit. I don't think we've seen those three fillies and mares that possibly and potentially could be that good. Mm-hmm.
And they're off in the Cavada Breeders' Classic, and Ghost Fever fires right out for the front, and Moonlit Song is going to stick right with her. Then comes Jackie's Notion. Late Night Powwow away in fourth. Starlight Flight has her hemmed in at the moment. And Anna's Bandit at the back of this six-pack of classy West Virginia-bred fillies and mares. As they dash into the clubhouse turn, it's Ghost Fever in front. Ghost Fever and Moonlit Song gets the perfect stalking trip from second. She's in the clear and a half length behind the speed of Ghost Fever. Then comes Jackie's Notion. Anna's Bandit has moved past Late Night Powwow, who sits in fifth, still on hold 2.5 lengths away from the front, and the trailer is Starlight Flight. The opening quarter in an easy 24 seconds flat, and it is Ghost Fever with Moonlit Song keeping her company a half length behind. In that second position, Anna's Bandit has moved past Jackie's Notion, and here's Late Night Powwow. Late Night Powwow waits no longer, and with a rush, she's up into third, and 2 lengths away from her stablemate Ghost Fever, Moonlit Song, and Late Night Powwow about to be 1-2, and they set the stage a quarter of a mile from home. It's Moonlit Song and the Charlestown Oaks winner, Late Night Powwow, right alongside of her. These West Virginia bred heavyweight mares turn for home together. It's Moonlit Song and Late Night Powwow. This is what we came for. It's Moonlit Song battling gamely with Late Night Powwow. Late Night Powwow's got her. Late Night Powwow, wow, in the Cavada.
I mean, they're exceptional.
One of the nice things about the onion juice, the old timers are back. You've got
Right.
the 9-year-old Helper Brother, a couple 7-year-olds in there that have been regulars, and that's been fun over the years. I think that's one of the things I enjoy most, is seeing the horses that can come back, because the trainers actually
You know,
work with their horses, prepare for the West Virginia Breeders' Classics night of racing.
And they're off in the Onion Juice to a perfect start. Valley of Gems, though, squeezed back just after the beginning. Here's Fairweather Friend out for the front, with New Windsor in front of the rail. Help a Brother. Far outside, Grumpelstiltskin, Prince of Windsor right there, too. Then the name's Billy away in sixth. Valley of Gems, after that early trouble, comes up to his outside. Then Allen's Castle trying to work his way in from that outside post position. The two trailers early on, Royal Blue and the late running Follow the Notion, already a dozen lengths away from the speed of Fairweather Friend, who's in front. He ran a 23-second flat opening quarter, and Fairweather Friend will take this Onion Juice field onto the Charlestown backstretch. New Windsor comes up to challenge him. Prince of Windsor right to that one's inside. Then comes Help a Brother, and Grumpelstiltskin on the move. On the outside, he's coming three wide, and he's up into third. They're followed by the names Billy. Up the fence, Allen's Castle, then Valley of Gems. Another 5 to Royal Blue, and Follow the Notion begins to roll, but still has 8 lengths to make up on Fairweather Friend, who's doing it easily up top. The half in 47-1. It's Fairweather Friend in front by a length. Grumpelstiltskin comes after him. New Windsor gives way. Help a Brother, and here's Allen's Castle. Follow the Notion launching on the far outside. Follow the Notion is flying, but he has a lot of work to do. Still 5 lengths from the front, and the front is held by Fairweather Friend, who keeps on finding Fairweather Friend. Here's Follow the Notion flying late. Fairweather Friend, Follow the Notion. Here's Follow the Notion, outstanding in the Onion Juice.
And that's an astute point, because when I've watched horse racing over the years, it kind of saddens me. Like this year, you know, we saw the horse win the Triple Crown and go immediately to the stud farm. You know, and it is nice here, you know, that we have horses that breed a sense of familiarity with the patrons, you know. And
This is the night for the home team.
It is. It is a home team night, and it makes me feel proud because I've been part of it. I've been behind the scenes. I've been behind the camera. I've been out there on the apron helping with things, and you know, actually, I was going to get a phone call from someone that said, "Hey, do you want to help out Saturday night?" And I was like, I said, I've got other commitments, but you know, I'll definitely be at the races. It's a night that I think it's nice because people have the opportunity to visit with people they haven't maybe seen since last October. And you know, you mentioned Help a Brother. Lewis Craig, I give Lewis a lot of credit. Lewis came up in a family that was very dedicated to horse racing and spent time in New York and away from West Virginia, learned his craft and his trade, and the job he's done with Help a Brother is pretty amazing, because I've been in the barn area, I've watched the horse, and any time you're able to get a horse to the races as often as he has, and with the longevity that horse has, it's pretty incredible. I mean, I love Help. I think Help a Brother's probably going to be one of the favorites in the race. We get an opportunity to interview Leslie Condon today, and Leslie's got a horse that's going to run in the Onion Juice as well. And actually, Leslie's fortunate; she's going to have a horse in the Classics this year. And you know, you get back and people have said to me, "Oh, this is a male-dominated industry," you know, and I never look at it like that. I don't think it's that way at all. You know, I look at on the backside. I mean, there's a lot of women exercise riders. You know, we still have women that are grooms. Daisy Tobin, right now, I think it was this morning or yesterday, I was talking to her about, she's going down to Keeneland. She's in there's an award that there's only 3 people that are competing for the award. The prize money's $10,000. And I wished her good luck, and hopefully that we're partners. But Lewis Craig and her will be going down there for that. And I don't know, I think there's a lot in West Virginia. I think this show could conceivably open up an avenue to people that love horse racing but are always kind of behind, don't really understand it. And that's been a thing that I have really talked about a lot with friends of mine, is that I've always preached the informative and educational side of racing, and I think we could do a better job at that. The average citizen, the average patron that comes to the track, really to open up a window of opportunity for them to understand horse racing, to be behind the scenes. I think those are things that I'm hoping that this show eventually will get into, and that it'll, you know, create a fan base that's far beyond the one that we have now.
One of the things that I've noticed over the years, people don't understand the correlation between the nice little mares and foals out in the field, nice attractive green grass and pretty. They have no way of connecting that with the racetrack and what goes on there.
I think too that people don't really have the people that are owners, trainers, breeders in this state, you know, a lot of them have family backgrounds that have been involved in racing for decades. And I think a lot of the people that are here in this county, they see the farms, and I think they look at it like this ostentatious, you know, grandiose thing that these people have, and they don't know that these are just regular people. They have a job, it's just different than a 9-to-5 job. Their job during foaling season may be all night long. And I talked to John Casey the other day and his group, and you know, they're excited about these races. Their family has invested heavily into the West Virginia Thoroughbred breeding program, and I just, you know, they're just good people. They work hard. Whatever money they make, they reinvest in this industry. This isn't a business that you take money out of constantly. When you do get an opportunity to be successful, you usually put that money right back into the game.
Well, if you look at Taylor Mountain Farm, you can see that. And of course, Mr. Casey Sr. was one of the first individuals to really understand the importance of both the Development Fund and the West Virginia Breeders' Classics, and upgraded his stock to try to improve his chances for winning a lot of money and developing that wonderful farm that he's developed.
And it's a beautiful farm.
Yeah.
And I got an opportunity the other day, we sat down and talked, and he loves to talk about things that have happened to him in the past. And he was telling me that, you know, years ago when he got into this business, Eleanor and him, and he said, you know, he had a horse called Proud John. And he said, I was working as a school teacher, making probably $5,000 a year, and Proud John won a division of I believe it was the Tri-State. And he said, my first place prize was like 7 times what I made as a teacher, and I was hooked. And my wife looked at me like, well, okay.
Actually, that reminds me of a story about Sam. Even though he was very upset about being traded from the New York Giants, he did stay friendly with Wellington Mara over the years, and we used to see him at the Derby and different places. And when we had the really good filly Bursting Forth, who was a graded stakes winner, Sam was talking with Mr. Marriott on the phone and said, I just made more money in 2 minutes than I ever made with you. Because his salary when he started with the Giants was around $5,000 a year.
Oh my God, he's got to be looking at the salaries that they're making nowadays and wonder if I could turn back the hands of time.
Yeah, but at least he spent his wisely and saved it.
Yes, and he did it in a very classy manner.
Yeah.
One thing that I personally enjoy is having a fast racetrack, because it does afford you the opportunity to go across the infield and do the celebrations for the winners in the infield, which I think is always a nice feature. I think it draws a lot of attention to those horses that have been successful, and I do like that. And I think it's always, crowd-wise, it's nicer for people to be out on the apron and go down and see the horses in the paddock. I always tell people, if you haven't been to the races before, enjoy the pageantry, embrace the pageantry. Go down to the paddock and see the jockeys, see the horses, you know, enjoy it, you know, and maybe you won't understand it as much, but hopefully, you know, that somewhere along the line people will be, you know, informed that this is what's going on. And I think we have a great opportunity here. I hope the West Virginia Breeders' Classic continues to be successful into the future, because it's something that I've been a part of now for about 15 years, and I can't tell you how grateful I am to you and Sam for creating this event and continuing it, and hopefully that it will continue to go on into the far future.
Well, we hope so, and thank you for all the promotional help you've given us.
Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's the late nights. It's the early mornings. It's the dedication. The hours of training that led to the winner's circle. We are the Horsemen. 80 years. 4 generations. A West Virginia legacy. O'Sullivan Farms is a proud sponsor of Horsepower. Valley Equine Associates is a proud sponsor of Horsepower. With over 50 years of experience, Valley Equine provides exceptional service in equine medicine and surgery. Valley Equine Associates, where your horse's health and well-being are our top priority. Breeding, training, racing. A stable of champions, Taylor Mountain Farm is a proud supporter of Horsepower. It's a West Virginia Classic, the Golf Tournament, the Gala, and the state's top thoroughbreds vying for the chance to be named West Virginia's best. The West Virginia Breeders' Classics